All right, push 1 in the chat if you can hear me. All right, thanks for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 570, Black Blockchain Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Docket and description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you would like to get engaged in this discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. And you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Let me give a shout out to the people who showed up first. Q497, shout out to you. Jackson J. Peace, Kaylin Bowler, welcome. Rainy Woman, good evening to you as well. Sandeep, welcome. Dave Tile, peace. Yeah, Q497 has had a wrench here for some months now. He's had that for at least 6 months. Mega Montana, peace. Let me drop the link if you want to engage in discussion. All right, first item on the docket is from cityam.com. Interoperability and regulation, the key to DLT mass adoption. The operative word in the previous paragraph is potential, because while blockchain technology shows enormous promise, that promise won't be realized until mass adoption occurs. And while we're undoubtedly getting closer to that point, we're not quite there yet. So the key question is, what's preventing mass adoption? And the answer can be summed up in a simple single word: interoperability. Only when DLTs can interoperate simply and easily will they be universally accepted as a default approach to connectivity in a wide range of applications. In one sense, of course, an essentially technical sense, this challenge is already solved. My own company, Quant Network, provides a DLT operating system which offers enterprise interoperability between DLTs at scale. But before we reach the tipping point of mass adoption, the condition of interoperability must be met in a wider sense. We need to deliver not only the technical interoperability, but governance interoperability and business interoperability too. And this will require the adoption of regulatory frameworks and international standards across all jurisdictions. My conviction that regulation will play a fundamental part in driving the market adoption of blockchain began as long as 2009, during the global financial crisis. In the decade before this, I had held various cybersecurity roles, both in the private sector and within governments. And I now hold a senior role in HM Treasury, helping to transform the way government operates. It was at the height of the 2009 crisis while we were focused on implementing measures to strengthen the economy. Sorry, this is bouncing all over the place. Strengthen the economy and setting up UKFI to take on the toxic assets from RBS and Lloyd's that I came across the Satoshi white paper. This famously introduced Bitcoin and described the way in which the protocol would work. The paper had been published only a few weeks previously, and as a professional in security technology, it interested me very much. In some ways, perhaps we have been here before during the dot-com bubble, in which various faddish digital currencies such as beans, flus, and internetcash.com emerged as the shiny new internet toys. But that's all they proved to be, toys. They disappeared as quickly as they arrived. This time, though, it was different. Satoshi's paper proposed the use of a combination of proven time, though it was different. Satoshi's paper proposed to use the use of a combination of proven technology to transact over a P2P network, which exploited the underlying mathematics and cryptography of the system to ensure security. I confess, excited at the mixture of innovative thinking and theoretical rigor. The idea, it seemed to me, had potential. Shortly after reading the Satoshi paper, I spoke at the HMG conference and took the opportunity to ask the 500 government delegates if they had heard of the technology. No one had. However, despite, or perhaps because of this, I decided to promote the technology internally by arranging meetings of the GCHQ team with the objective of understanding blockchain and its underlying mechanism. It was then in 2009 that I asked our Treasury Economic Policy team to complete an assessment of the technology with respect to its implications for the UK economy. Their report concluded that blockchain would have no material impact. Of course, it was early days, so I kept close to the technology and followed the progress we were all making while fulfilling various senior government security roles in both the UK and Australia. During this time, the term blockchain was being used more and more. By 2014, although a recognition of the technology's potential had taken root, the industry had begun to adopt a siloed approach. Different blockchains were being developed in isolation. It was around this time, in my role as a CISO at the Department of Health, I faced a data interchange issue between different systems and jurisdictions. I began to think about DLT technology might be used as a secure overlay to health systems. I'm sorry, the page is having some issues here. During this period, blockchain was rapidly gaining recognition, but while it was being seen as an increasingly viable solution for some applications, more shied clear of commitment. The same concerns over the technology were heard again and again. Why can I not use multiple DLTs at the same time? Why do I have to be locked into a particular DLT for an indefinite period of time? Why can I not seamlessly move DLT technologies, vendors, and providers whenever I want? They were questions which, with my experience in government, seemed to have a clear solution. What was required was a DLT operating system, a universal overlay that would provide an interconnectivity and interoperability between not just different DLTs, but other legacy networks too. Such an operating system would resolve most of these issues at a stroke. It was at this point, and with this objective, I formed Quant Network. Yet, while we have successfully addressed technical interoperability, there still remains a real and significant role of regulation standards in helping DLTs reach full maturity. The issue was highlighted in the 2019 Deloitte survey and the recent WEF World Economic Forum Interoperability Series. But progress in ISO is certainly happening. Today, standards are starting to emerge increasingly rapidly, with 57 countries and organizations working together, coupled with the formal collaboration of different standards bodies and working groups to progress the technology. Some are focusing on technical aspects like IEEE, and others are looking at more specific areas such as ITUT, while ISO is providing a broader perspective. This is further supported by initiatives from INATABA, the European Commission, and the EU, which has established an annual standards check-in to provide an update on progress and development and to agree focus areas and collaboration opportunities. All in all, it is a journey with strong echoes of internet development in the 1980s and 90s with the emergence of OSI and the TCP/IP. And the game-changing effects of these developments are already emerging. These range from the establishment of DLT-based trade corridors with streamlined customs processes through the development of smart contracts for faster, more efficient business processes, to the secure transfer of sensitive data and fast transactions and payments of digital assets. And there's much more, including a rapid evolution of ecosystem interconnectivity, which will lead to national blockchain infrastructure that delivers government services to citizens. This is very true. Okay, it's a very true article. I'm surprised that this had not been spoken about before. That the problem with the adoption of blockchain was that it was fragmented. There was no real way to determine what was going to survive and what was not. Okay. And if you're the government, you can't just keep picking up and playing with different technologies and hoping that one of them sticks around. There has to be some standards set in place. And I'm surprised that standards had not been thought of before. And so a DLT operating system is actually really, really genius. That is absolute genius, because then it forces everyone who wants to play by the rules of the operating system or get out. This is very much the idea that should have been set forward, 7 years ago. I'm not sure why it took so long, but it's actually a really good idea. We have Nagone 11 on the panel. All right, let me jump to the last item on the docket. So you need regulatory frameworks in place in order for technology to be adopted massively. For a lot of people, it's cool that you can kind of plug and play different sort of systems and then hope for the best with it. But if you're the government, you can't do that. Okay, there's standards already in place on data that gets protected at rest and in transit, as well as total architecture compatibility. You can't have interoperability without some form of compatibility. And so this is actually a genius way of approaching it. And I'm surprised no one had thought of it before. All right, this is from cointelegraph.com. Blockchain as an infrastructure, a deep dive into China's DLT strategy. China is not playing catch up, but rather exploring aggressively pragmatic ways to deploy a digital infrastructure for the whole economy with the blockchain tech implementation. There's an old saying in China, building the road is the first step to becoming rich. Asian countries use infrastructure to boost the economy, and China is probably the most aggressive one. Its annual average infrastructure spending is one of the highest at 8.3% of its gross domestic product. from 2010 to 2015, according to the data from Statista. In the last 2 decades, China has built the most highways and high-speed railways, and it has now decided to extend the infrastructure development to a digital dimension. China's new infrastructure plan includes blockchain technology, 5G, artificial intelligence, and cloud computing as the new information infrastructure. China's research and exploration of blockchain technology and digital currencies have a longer history than people think. It started in 2014 when China's central bank formed a special study group to research the feasibility of issuing digital currencies. It wasn't until October 2019 that President Xi Jinping announced blockchain a core technology, bringing his national strategy to the people's attention. The subsequent rollout of digital currency, electronic payment, or DCEP, trials and blockchain-based service network is a sign that the strategy is gaining momentum. Prior to blockchain technology, each participant in the network could only use their own database, and as the number of participants in the network increases, the validation of the data demand grows exponentially, leading to high costs and inefficiency. If all participants maintain one database together, the frequency and cost of interactions among participants can be greatly reduced. Blockchain technology is a tamper-proof public database that has recorded all operations and data since day one. You can trust the history of transactions, basically the state of the ledger, without having to trust any particular actor to verify that information. This is true. Instead of having auditors come in and pull and reconcile data from all these different points, you can directly audit the blockchain itself. Or potentially regulators can come in and use the blockchain itself as an original source of information. Using blockchain technology, we can create applications that could not have existed before. Satoshi Nakamoto used a blockchain to record a cash ledger, and thus Bitcoin was born, which showed the immense potential of the technology. However, China has its own vision of using the technology. It wants to use a blockchain to encourage data sharing, to make businesses more efficient, and to establish better credit systems in various sectors, including the Internet of Things, supply chain management, and government services. Let's take a look at the 2 major initiatives under such a vision. Digital cash. The digital format of the Chinese national currency, or DCEP, is an example that shows how China is using blockchain technology upon deliberate considerations. The primary purpose of introducing a central bank digital currency is to protect monetary sovereignty, out of concern that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies can have an impact on, said Mu Chengchen, the project lead of DCEP, in a recent report. He continued, DCEP will also improve the efficiency of the payment system and enhance the convenience of the renminbi payments. After reading all the existing materials, what caught my attention the most is that DCEP is capable of doing transactions without a bank account. And you just need to open a DCEP wallet, allowing a small number of anonymous payments, which is not supported by the current electronic payment system. For a number of transactions, the DCEP wallet needs know your customer, KYC, information for anti-money laundering, anti-tax invasion, anti-corruption, and anti-terrorist financing reasons. Doing offline peer-to-peer transactions once the wallet is set up. Integrating with smart contracts. In a trial use in Suzhou, DCEP was used to pay government employees for public transportation subsidies. Wu also said that after years of research on technical aspects of blockchain technology, the policymaker came to the conclusion that blockchain tech at its current state still has security issues and can't handle the high concurrency for payment. Therefore, the Chinese government does not use blockchain technology for digital currency issuance because you have regulatory financial systems in place that have to be, and guidelines that have to be followed. Blockchain technology itself is a combination of many existing mature technologies such as asymmetric cryptography, consensus algorithm, time stamping, etc. As seen from its latest disclosed patent, DCEP is integrated with asymmetric cryptography, unspent transaction output, and smart contracts. The digital yuan adopts a two-layered system for issuance and distribution. The central bank issues a digital currency electronic payment to banks or other financial institutions, and then these institutions further distribute the digital currency to the public. While the issuance of DCEP is centralized, the circulation could be based on traditional financial account systems or blockchains. Okay, so they're extracting the mechanisms of blockchain for digital payments, but not actually making it the only source. Not putting all their eggs in one basket. They actually they're fragmenting it and breaking it apart. DCEP transactions that are not based on financial accounts could go around the SWIFT system and more convenient for cross-border payments, said Zhao Chunwei, the chief economist at Wenxing Blockchain, in a recent report. He stated, foreign entities can simply open a DCEP wallet to conduct the cross-border transaction. The requirements to open a DCEP wallet are much lower than those to open a renminbi deposit account. Peer-to-peer transactions can be initiated between any two DCEP wallets. So what they're talking about doing is getting around the old SWIFT system, okay? SWIFT is the old financial system that's out of Brussels, okay? This is an archaic system that's slow and decrepit and governed by one major entity, being the United States and London, okay? Washington and London. As an example, he said that this explains why the People's Bank of China had previously announced that the DCEP pilot scenario included Winter Olympic venues. What if DCEP transactions happen on public blockchains? It will help the yuan to internationalize. Yeah, that's exactly what they plan on doing with this. Okay, you have a public ledger of the blockchain, which is the blockchain, and you have a yuan making transactions on there, which makes this publicly available, which shows the value of it and increases the value of it to the public. You just internationalize your money without firing a shot. Blockchain-based applications to explore the possibilities of blockchain-based applications. China has invited banks, telecoms, and internet companies that have filed the most blockchain patents in the world. In areas where there is a high requirement for trustworthy information sharing and a low requirement for concurrencies, such as transaction settlement, trade finance, or the transfer of property rights, blockchain technology is already being used widely, and the majority of blockchain applications are built on permission consortium blockchains. This is true. Okay, you have more eyes looking over this than what could actually be explained. For example, Chinese banks have been exploring the use of blockchain technology in various segments since 2016. Some of the largest projects are Bay Area Trade Finance Blockchain platform was initiated by the central bank and launched in 2018. As of December 17th, 2019, 38 banks joined the platform with business volume over 87 billion Chinese yuan. That's a lot. State Administration of Foreign Exchange Cross-Border Trade Blockchain Service Platform is the first blockchain application built by a national regulator, and it launched in 2019. As of January 10th, 2020, the platform had completed a total of 13.9 billion in accounts receivable finance lending. Meanwhile, the platform has 170 banks serving 2,200 enterprises. Blockchain e-invoicing was initiated by the Shenzhen Municipal Tax Bureau and Tencent and launched in 2018. As of April 2020, more than 18 million blockchain e-invoices have been issued by 15,000 enterprises. This is actually a very good use of blockchain, okay? E-invoicing. What I wish, and I'm pretty sure it will happen at some point, is digital signatures, meaning that my signature from me can actually be applied through a smart contract onto the e-invoice on the blockchain. I'm pretty sure that's going to come along at some point. From the use cases above, it seemed that enterprise blockchains can meet the requirements of the application scenarios in terms of performance and privacy and improve efficiency with cost reduction. However, any new participant has to first have trust in the collective behavior of multiple participants in a permission blockchain and to be willing to join and collaborate. If you want to broaden the boundaries of your application scenario and attract more participants, you will need to use open and permissionless blockchains, which can be freely accessed by the public, and more importantly, it creates a consensus by all without the need to give permission to enter and exit. Yeah, this is true. Transparency is what's key with blockchain, okay? If there's no transparency, then it causes problems. While the current use cases in China have been on enterprise blockchains, they will eventually converge on the power of public open blockchains, as the latter are a stronger form of technology. Compared to enterprise blockchains, the permissionless blockchain is more like a borderless infrastructure and similar to the internet's TCP/IP standard. The boundaries depend on network effects. The larger the network, the greater the value of the asset can be circulated in the network. If a greater global consensus is to be achieved, it can only be achieved via public and open blockchain networks. Yeah, so this means more adoption, more people are participants in the network itself to build the consensus that they're referring to. It seems China's policymakers are clearly aware of this as well, and the technical design of the BSN reflects this. BSN, a national integrated development environment for building blockchain applications. Led by the State Information Center, the China Mobile Communication Corporation, and China UnionPay, the BSN aims to advocate the industry's use of blockchain technology by lowering the technical difficulty and cost of deploying blockchain applications. According to its introductory white paper, BSN supports several enterprise blockchains: Hyperledger Fabric, Fiscal, Bcos, Baidu Superpain, and CETA, and public blockchain frameworks like Ethereum and EOS. It also says to support as many blockchain frameworks as possible. BSN itself is not a blockchain protocol, it's a centralized platform. It's more like what we call a large integrated development environment, or IDE, for developers, providing a low-cost environment for developing, deploying, maintaining, interoperating, and monitoring applications that integrate multiple cloud resources, underlying blockchain frameworks, and operational environment, key management, software development kit, and gateway application programming interfaces. So BSN is not a protocol, as it's stating. It's more of a high-level abstract to interact with the blockchain. It's more like a developer's platform. It's decentralized. BSN does the heavy lifting for developers so they can plug and play, deploying applications on blockchains at a cost as low as $150 to $300 per year. Regardless of whether the underlying layer is heterogeneous or not, all application chains on the BSN can interact with one another, resulting in a similar situation akin to communication on the internet. As with any technology, affordability can meaningfully accelerate the adoption curve. BSN has the capacity to unlock the potential of blockchain technology. In the pilot phase, BSN will roll out more than 120 public nodes across China and overseas. It is reported that hundreds of blockchain applications have been deployed within BSN, the BSN platform, from beta to current commercial use, including public data security sharing services, intelligence sterilization supervision platforms, electronic contract management, government affairs depository, as well as commodity traceability. Ma believes that blockchain technology can be used in cross-border payments, letters of credit, payment clearing in other financial areas, as well as election voting, welfare lottery, public welfare. He said that the philanthropic utility sector may be the first to mature and make great use of blockchain technology. This is true. I agree with this. In addition to various enterprise in public blockchain frameworks in the BSN is a strong strategic position. BSN will act as an abstract layer connecting permission blockchains with open and permissionless blockchains, of which are just two formats of using the technology. And together they will weave an efficient and reliable network of the digital economy. Yeah, yeah. This is blockchain at the granular level. Okay, this is what they're talking about: digital infrastructure, digital transformation. The United States has not gotten to this point yet. Okay, many countries in the West have not gotten to this point. And so we talked earlier about regulatory frameworks. We also talk about risk management and auditing. Okay, cybersecurity as well. Let me bring up something for people beyond blockchain, right? What are the key aspects to, um, what are the key aspects to actually engaging infrastructure in the environment itself, the digital transformation piece? So let me share my screen. So this is ISACA. ISACA is an organization that has established certifications for some of the most rigorous industries, okay, in tech, okay. So what are we talking about here? The article mentioned auditing, okay, auditing on the blockchain. Certified Information Systems Auditor is the certification, the most premier certification for IT auditing or technology auditing. This is going to be critical if you want to get into this field from a transitional perspective. You may not know how to write code and so on and so forth. So maybe you might want to look at it from a different perspective. How do I get into this market? Well, if you become a certified information systems auditor, you can get into auditing the blockchain. Okay, this is a very important area of regulatory frameworks as well as the risk management aspect of it. So it says this, the CISA certification is a world-renowned as world-renowned as the standard of achievement for those who audit, control, monitor, and assess organizations' information technology and business systems. The recent quarterly IT skills and certification pay index from Foodie Partners or from Foot Partners ranked CISA among the most sought after and highest paying IT certifications. This certification is a must-have for entry to mid-level IT professionals looking for leverage and career growth. Yeah, this is true. Okay, CISA is one area and a very good area as an entry level into blockchain from a risk and compliance standpoint. Okay. You want to get into blockchain from a financial services standpoint and from a compliance standpoint, regulatory framework standpoint. CISA is what you're going to go to first. And then the other aspect is regulatory framework risk management. Certified in Risk and Information Systems Control, CRISC. ISACA certified in Risk and Information Systems Control certification indicates expertise in identifying and managing enterprise IT risk and implementing and maintaining information systems controls. Gain instant recognition and credibility with risk and boost your career. So if you're a mid-career IT professional with a focus on IT and cyber risk and control, CRISC can get you the leverage you need to grow in your career. So this is what you would get after you pass the CISA exam, okay? This is what you would get after you pass the CISA. And then we come down to this right here, which is the last one. CDPSE, okay, Certified Data Privacy Solutions Engineer. Modern privacy laws and regulations require organizations to implement privacy by design and by default into IT systems, networks, and applications. To do so, privacy professionals must partner with software developers, system and network engineers, application and database administrators, and project managers to build data privacy and protection measures into new and existing technology environments. This is a new certification that just came out this year, okay? This will be necessary in European theaters, okay? GDPR, California Consumer Protection Act, CCPA, okay? Massachusetts data laws, New York data laws. All of this stuff comes into play for privacy purposes. Blockchain is securing data in transit, okay? So the privacy aspect, so the privacy aspect from a privacy solutions engineer aspect comes into play when you're talking about building out this sort of secure infrastructure for enterprises and governments, okay? This is going to be very important. You don't take this certification until you get past CRISC, okay? Certified in Risk and Information System Control. IT and cyber risk and control. That's what they're talking about. Building controls building risk controls into information systems for organizations, okay? Here you're talking about building privacy into the design. I have a blockchain system. I'm a government entity in Africa. In order for me to do business with the rest of the world, I have to be able to apply the same kind of controls, but I have no idea what to do. I need somebody with the data privacy solutions engineer certification. I need somebody with the certified in risk and information system control. And I also need somebody who can audit my systems. So that's CISA. So these are 3 certifications that applies to everything that we talked about tonight. We have engineering cannabis on the panel.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
What's wrong?
Quick question. In the auditing, you said you might not need coding, especially. So are you just looking at auditing the process, how blockchain is going to aid in the organization and the process, or the overall, or are you just auditing the code itself? So because
so 2 factors. That's 2 factors.
so
So
that's it.
you have code auditors who work in SDLC, right? Those are the people who are going to look at the code.
Yeah.
Then you have regulatory auditors who look at the frameworks, the regulatory frameworks that you have to comply with, right? So this is from a compliance standpoint, not necessarily from a code review standpoint.
But don't you need to understand a little bit about how the aspect of the blockchain is basically going to interact with your whole process or your whole business or organization in that auditing? Oh, how is that going to work? Because when I see auditor, I think your code. I think how after the blockchain tech is deployed, how is it effective in improving the security system of your database or in transfer? So again, those are two parts. Either you're looking at the code or you're looking at how it helps in basically providing security to your data, to the data itself you're trying to protect.
So your application security analysts are going to be the ones to do code review. Okay, they'll be responsible for handing that off to whoever is responsible for, whoever's over the management level or the supervisory level of your code. If I'm an auditor, all I need to see is the code that you've written. I don't need to know how it works or anything else. I just need to know, are there errors in it, and the aspect of um, does it meet the requirements for the regulatory frameworks that's in place in compliance? You understand what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
don't need
yeah.
to be, a developer or understand the code. I just need to measure it versus the um, the regulatory framework that's in place, like
All right.
HIPAA or something like that.
Okay, yeah, okay, I get that. Then the next question: do you see blockchain as just a sole technology, or do you see maybe part of more integrated into more technologies that might help in protecting data? So, for instance, blockchain might go into maybe aiding with security with maybe um, again facial recognition or something else. So do you see that as sole technology for just protecting data, or do you see it part of maybe a series of technology utilized by organizations, maybe one part of maybe set three-stage security system with an organization, or do you see it solely as just a system that can be used itself, or do you see it solely it can be integrated with other systems for the protection of data?
Well, I think it can be used for multiple purposes, but for in terms of relevance to tonight's discussion, this is about infrastructure, right? Can you hear me, engineer Candace?
Sorry, I had to go somewhere real quick. Yeah, I heard you. I'm hearing you. I was just asking that question.
Okay. No, can you repeat it again? Because I missed the end of it because seemed to got cut off. Well, while we wait for engineering cannabis, so you can become a member of ISACA. You join a professional membership. Join. There's a list of chapters for each region. Different regions have different sort of frequencies of meeting up, but with COVID, everybody's meeting online anyways through Zoom. And so when you start to fill this application out for a membership, it would ask you where you're going to be at, where you reside at, and so on and so forth. You just follow the questions, and you should be just fine. Um, Lots of training on here. Once you become a member, you'll start to see it for yourself. Um,
Sorry, Mike, I had some issues. The question I wanted to ask again was the integration. You said it was just we're looking at it as a sole infrastructure where it just deals with blockchain itself. But again, I was just wondering if it's possible where it can be integrated with other security system to basically improve data, basically data security, also improve following regulations like HIPAA, and basically to build confidence with individuals who are using this technology. So could it be part of more new technologies in place for security to basically boost the confidence and also boost how this technology can be implemented in every other organization itself?
It can be integrated with different security systems such as SIMs, IDS, intrusion detection systems, intrusion protection systems, different levels of firewalls, web application firewalls, WAFs, um, and IoT as well. Um, and so, depending on what the application is, what the sort of business cases, business use cases, then that will determine um, the viability of that. In this aspect, you're going to be building out security for it anyways, right? The data that is see, what's really important is the main primary thing is the data that travels through it. Can we verify that data? Yes, we can, because it has a hash and there's consensus built inside the
Yeah,
blockchain network, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
aspect
Hash,
cared for.
timestamp, all that. Yeah, validate. Yeah, all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that can validate the data.
yeah,
But again, the, why I believe it's not being adopted is the confidence interval, where companies are not yet confident in basically deploying these technologies, and that's why it's not widespread utilized. So that's why I'm saying, if it can be, if it can be integrated with the technology being utilized currently for data security, then utilize it. If you can then utilize blockchain more and integrate it with what's being currently utilized, I think that can build the confidence of different organizations and all that. So that's why I'm trying to see if that can play a role in basically full adoption of blockchain itself.
right. And the lack of adoption is because of lack of standardization. There is no real blockchain standardization at all. You have
Yeah,
Ethereum, you
yeah,
have Hyperledger, you have
yeah.
IOTA,
Hyperledger, I think.
EOS, you have there's so many, you have Ripple and the rest of them. There's so many of them that don't agree with each other and they don't interoperate with each other. That's the
So
key as to why
that's
they won't adopt it.
that's why I said if an organization like Microsoft adopts this technology, and again, for instance, the AWS, the cloud system,
Mhm.
because companies started adopting it, we started seeing again AWS, Azure, and AWS, Oracle now being the big players in the cloud technology. So again, if the big companies start adopting blockchain, can we see maybe something like that occurring? Then we can see standardization based on these big things adopting it,
Yeah, the bigger the player, the more likely the adoption.
and the more likely standardization will occur.
Yes. So you have to have skin in the game to get that sort of level of adoption. Obviously, Microsoft is a whale, it's a super whale on top of that.
Yeah,
AWS is a whale, Oracle is a whale. All of these companies that are coming out, Apple is a whale too. These are companies that are going to be responsible for driving the market.
yeah,
Um, either they develop it themselves or they'll go acquire another company to do it for them.
yeah.
Google, another super whale, right?
That's how it is. Basically, they acquire a company who's in the front of this technology. Then they standardize it.
Mhm.
Then other companies start basically adopting it. Basically, it becomes basically a pinball falling from each other. Just one company adopts it, then it becomes standardized. So that's the way I see it going. Basically, starting from smaller companies adopting it, then basically being acquired by big companies, and building it up. So that's how I see this technology going. But I also see it first by trying to basically get it where it can be utilized with existing technology that other companies are being used. Then it becomes easy to standardize itself.
And this is where 54 different African countries, 35 different Latin American countries, you know, there's a lot that needs to be taken into consideration. How are all of these small, minor governance states that don't have the intellectual capacity and human capital to implement this sort of stuff, how are they going to do this? That's where guys like Engineering Cannabis, myself, and some of you guys in the chat, that's where you all come in, and you come in with these certifications, you know what you're talking about, and you lay down exactly what needs to be done, and they pay you and you go. And then you change the world for what, or at least you change their environment.
Yeah.
You change their
So
environment.
yeah, I see a lot of adoption, especially with blockchain. With again, I might be beating the dead horse with AI,
Mhm,
blockchain, IoT,
mhm.
all that coming together and basically formulating ways where again companies can basically adopt these technologies easy, or even countries can adopt it. Because right now, countries are still seeing ways to adopt blockchain and IoT and AI. So
Well,
again, it's
before they can adopt it, they also have to have a framework in place for themselves.
yeah,
They don't have anything written on paper that
yeah,
says, this is what we do, this is what the technology is, this is what we do with it, and this is how we're implementing it, and this is how we're compatible, this is how we're compliant with global standards, ISO 2701 or something like that, 2702 or whatever it is. We
yeah.
adopt these standards. There is no blockchain standard right now.
There isn't because I've seen different even the coding with Hyperledger, with even utilizing Python, and I have cheat sheets for each coding, but you can see it's not. There isn't any standardization in utilization or even the coding itself. So I believe it's the wild west right now for blockchain, but hopefully it can be slowly adopted itself.
Yeah, no, that stuff is going to start to come around. The European Union has some pretty good standards in place for data privacy.
Yeah.
So you'll see, you'll
So
probably, mhm.
do you utilize in the standardization? Do we start with again? You talked of regulation. Do we start with the regulation and move into how to implement the technology? So if you want to implement, you said European Union utilize. So if we were going to implement in the United States, especially within healthcare, do we start with the basics of HIPAA, then move into how can we adopt blockchain by basically following the HIPAA laws, and how can that basically improve make sure we can follow that regulation itself. So the first part is knowing the HIPAA law and seeing how blockchain can basically satisfy that regulation.
Or more about establishing the blockchain framework from a secure perspective, right? You know, where is the liability within the blockchain itself? Uh, um, the public transparency of it is the liability because there's certain transactions being made on it that's going to be publicly seen by a lot of people,
Yes.
right? So if it's
Yes.
financial, that stuff has to be protected because financial regulations say that sensitive information, PII, has to be protected. Same thing with healthcare, right? In America, you have HIPAA. In
Yeah.
Africa, you do not have that.
Yeah. True.
So different continents, different countries have different standards. In Africa,
Sanders.
you have 54 different countries that have not come up with one framework for the protection of uh, patient information or electronic medical records. That actually makes Africa a lot better, a better place to implement and test a lot of these things because the red tape is not there. In America, the red tape is there. So if you establish some kind of blockchain for some hospital or some clinic and you lose the data or there's some kind of you know misconfiguration of control within the blockchain itself or within the network that allows for sensitive information to be leaked out, you're screwed. You're out of business because you can't afford to pay the fine, $1 million a record.
But at the same time, if you're designing it now, you have free for all, especially in Africa. You're designing a blockchain technology that can be adopted around the whole country. Now, shouldn't again with the HIPAA, shouldn't that restriction make you more in tuned into designing a more efficient blockchain technology itself? Because at that point, you're trying to cross another market. So now you focus in Africa. Now you don't, at that point you didn't have any constraints, so you can go free for all and design a whole technology basically to adopt. Now in trying to come into the American market, now you have constraints like HIPAA and all that. So wouldn't that basically be more difficult in that transition itself?
Well, if you're just talking healthcare, like the last article was saying from Quant Network, they just build a blockchain operating system and call it a day. And you have to be plug-in, you have to be compatible. Your drivers have to be compatible, just like a Windows operating system. You have to have the right drivers, right? So
Yeah.
that's what they're talking about doing is creating an operating system and having everybody plug into that operating system. The
Mhm.
operating system will be secured by Quant, and everybody else just needs to make sure that their device that they plug into it, or whatever blockchain technology that they have that plugs into it, would be compatible with that operating system, rather than to um, reinvent the wheel on their side. Just make sure that it's compliant here, and then when it passes through that blockchain operating system, it will, all your security mechanisms will be taken care of. Once it gets to the other side, um, at Engineering Cannabis's network, you know, it's already secure on his side because he's taking care of security on his side. It's secure from my side because I made sure that when I plugged into the network, I was secure.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So I just those are my questions. I was just
Yeah.
intrigued in ways to basically adopt this technology. Since I've been coding it, I've been trying to figure out again how to make it more viable in terms of adoption. So
Mhm.
yeah, but that was it. But
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. No problem, man. Because, certified information systems auditor, man, this is really good certification.
Yeah,
151,000 people have it,
yeah.
up to $110,000 in salary,
Uh,
and you haven't even touched the blockchain yet.
yeah.
Once you have a full grasp of the blockchain, the DLT, and you're an auditor, you can just walk in there and just say, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I want to see the records for this. I want to see the logs for that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're gonna have to open up those systems, and you're gonna be the one that's gonna go in there and do the audit.
So do you think it would be beneficial for someone, okay, if you're an auditor, but also you understand the code itself, do you think it would be as beneficial
That's
for
that's
that person?
yeah, absolutely. Every bit of knowledge that you have about the system is going to be beneficial. But what happens if you go to one organization, they use Java, another organization
Is
uses
it
C++?
Python?
Yeah, the other one uses
Yeah.
Python. You have to learn all these languages? No.
No, but again, it's it's still it might not, again, the language is not follow, but the baseline still follows. Again, the you have to have a timestamp, you have to have a hash,
Yeah.
you have to have a validation. Knowing that, even though you might not know how to code in Java or that, but knowing that you have to have these and knowing these are what it is and what it contains, knowing that aspect and knowing, okay, I can go into Python, I can go in JavaScript and say, okay, pull out where the hash function is, pull out where the validation function is, the proof of work is, pull this out and let me see if you have it correctly or if it's correctly being processed. I believe it will aid in as an auditor to basically understand. You might not know the language, but you know the baseline of the language. It's baseline of the blockchain itself.
Right. So you look for the vulnerabilities, right? So now you
Yeah,
do a vulnerability assessment on the system. You
yeah.
don't necessarily need to know the code. Your
Code. Yeah,
your Qualys system, right? Your whatever your
yeah,
Rapid7 vulnerability management system, you're gonna run that system against that network, and it's gonna give you back some results.
yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
It's gonna
That.
feed you back the results, and you're gonna say, okay, well, based on this assessment from the vulnerability assessment, the results from this vulnerability assessment, you guys failed in one, two, three, four, five, six.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah, yeah,
need to
yeah, yeah.
patch this up.
Yep. I get it now. I get it. Yeah,
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff has already been automated. And so
yeah.
you can run this periodically. We run our assessments weekly, every Thursday. We never run on Friday because if we do find something wrong, no one wants to be here for the rest of the week
Yeah,
and
fix it.
try to
Yeah,
figure
true.
it out. Right?
Yeah,
Monday, Thursdays when we run it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I get that now. So I
Mhm.
just want to know because yes, the auditor is there, but having knowledge of also baseline of the code and all that also will help.
Yep.
You don't need to know Python and JavaScript for it, but knowing the baseline and all that will help.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, and so this is where we are. Okay, auditors matter in the market of blockchain. Okay, auditors matter. Okay, it says it right here: information systems auditing process, governance and management of IT, information systems acquisition, development, and implementation, information systems operations and business resilience. Okay, protection of information assets. Yeah, you want to protect that whole entire blockchain network because you don't want bad guys trying to do an exploit against your Ethereum stack. Okay, 51% attack. Okay, business resilience, all that stuff matters. The ability, if your blockchain is under attack, do you have the ability to shift to alternative warm resources that are readily available? Can you shift to a different cloud? How fast can you shift to it? Is that data being protected? What's the viability of that data once it gets over there? Have we done all these kind of testing? That's what auditors do. Sounds annoying, but that's what they get paid for. They get paid to ask the hard questions. Information systems acquisition, development, and implementation. That's what they do. Are you implementing that? What did you do? Governance and management of IT. That's pretty much all of your blocks, all of your technology stacks in your organization. They're going to be questioning that. Blockchain is one area, but what about your routers and your switches? What about that cloud system from AWS and Azure that you got, and DigitalOcean, IBM, Rapid7, IBM, and Oracle? There's a lot of moving pieces inside enterprise IT systems. It's not just blockchain. It's not just, one or two areas. There's a myriad of areas that you have to look into. Blockchain needs auditors. No one really understands blockchain. No one knew what was going on. No one was auditing. So 54 different African countries are looking at this and saying, this is too much for me. I don't even know what to do. What am I supposed to do with this? You want me to, be a part of this global financial system, but how am I supposed to know what to do? We never did any of this 20 years ago. We just operated and that was it. Now you're asking me to do all these things. I need an auditor. I need somebody who can look at this. That's what an auditor does. Okay.
Do you see a big push in the consultancy side? Again, with these certs and knowing again blockchain and all that, do you see a push into again you even said that 54 countries will be looking for ways to aid in driving the efficiency of blockchain, especially within fintech or financial markets. So do you see a lot of consultancy and all that going being again highly profitable?
It's the most profitable area on the continent. If you're just referring to the continent, it's
Yeah.
the profitable area. Anybody who knows this stuff front to back, it's highly sought after. You be traveling, you spend a lot of time in the air going from place to place because they need that sort of, um, they need that sort of expertise. They need that sort of expertise. And so now we're talking about certified in risk and information systems controls, 26,000 certification holders and $117,000 on salary. Okay. IT risk identification, IT risk assessment, risk response and mitigation, risk and control monitoring and reporting. These are areas that are going to be of your concern when you look at a blockchain implementation. You say, what's the risk identification here? Okay, let's run a risk assessment. Risk and response and mitigation. Who's responsible for this? Who's on the purple team, so to speak. Okay. Risk and control monitoring and reporting. Yeah, somebody has to be looking at this type of stuff in an ongoing day-to-day fashion. That's your job. You come in, you create the controls. You come in, you do the reporting. The blockchain is not just going to do it itself. Once you set it up, it still needs to be implemented and controlled. I foresee that what's going to happen is that they're going to have to really simple, if, in order to get massive adoption, you're going to need a blockchain to go, basically like a Happy Meal. You come up to McDonald's and you want
Yeah,
a junior Big Mac or whatever it is, and some fries, and it's ready to go in a few minutes. That's the sort of way I see blockchain moving in
yeah,
the next couple of years, where you basically open up your phone, you're on the app. I need this sort of blockchain, and in a few minutes they spin it up for you in AWS or something like that or Azure,
yeah.
and then it's readily available to you. But it's up to you as an IT person or a business intelligence officer how it's going to be set up, because they can cook it for you, but how you eat it is up to you. You eat it with your hands or you eat it with a fork and a knife. If
But
you choke on your own food, that's your problem.
because right now, again, the blockchain to go, I don't think it's going to be coming up soon because right now it's still complicated. Again, standardization and all that. So it's going to take a while before that ever happens, I believe.
Yeah, but if I'm a restaurant, right? If I'm a small restaurant, if I'm McDonald's or I'm Burger King or something like that, and I have multiple different franchises, multiple different, you know, uh, other sort of streamlined food and beverage businesses and so on and so forth, the supply and logistics is going to have to play a role in this. Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and so on and so forth. Um, the ketchup, the mustard, all the condiments. I need to know where all this stuff is coming from. And if I can't figure out where it's coming from, I'm putting it all in a blockchain. And I'm going to have all this information being ingested. And I'm going to have all of my menus and stuff being ingested into the same system and leveraging that distributed ledger to determine um, the transparency of everything that I'm doing, so that the FDA is not on my back.
With that statement, do you think, again, if for a blockchain, for instance, a company is being sued based on irregularities in their ingredients, and you have a blockchain that stamps this is where we got it and we believe it's still of good quality, do you think that might satisfy the rules and regulations in terms of quality control?
Absolutely. QC is going to be looking at this and saying, yeah, this is a good idea, right? Look at the recent recall this week for salad. They're finding parasites inside the salad. People were getting sick off of it in the Midwest. And they traced it down to one bag of salad that was contaminated. We haven't even scratched the surface of blockchain with this. Had that been put on the blockchain, they would have knew exactly which package it was.
Yeah.
They would have knew that. Fortunately for them, they had a QR code that they can trace back or a barcode that they can trace back. But that's just archaic way of looking at it. But from a blockchain standpoint, we would have knew what truck it was on. We would have stopped it, and so on and so forth. And we would have had to return it back and let's destroy that bags of salad that was sent out. And let's compensate those people as well, with tokens and whatever it is.
Yeah, because
Oh,
that's the one part I'm trying to see if the adoption, when it's adopted, if
uh-huh.
it's, for instance, again, companies being sued and say, okay, how are you doing your quality control?
Mhm.
How is this? How can you pinpoint where problems occur? Basically, the goal is, again, like blockchain should be the goal should be more of a preventive than more of a
Mhm.
proactive than a reactive approach to
Mhm.
basically dealing with quality issues or
Mhm.
quality control issues. So I believe that's what blockchain should be and will be in the future.
Yeah, let's go to Jay. Yes, it just entered the room.
Oh, what's going on, guys?
Chilling there, chilling.
I was listening to the example you just gave. The only issue I have is that I don't understand why that would be different than all the information being logged.
Well, we don't know. Well,
Like, say, if they, that example with a bag of lettuce having parasites,
Yeah.
Like they could have logged the information, like the farm, what truck it was on, in the same database.
But it can
That's
be
associated
changed.
with the barcode.
But it can be altered.
But I mean,
The goal
could
of
they
the
not?
Go ahead, Jay, finish.
go ahead.
Yeah, I see. I was trying to think about this,
Yep.
but you could also just falsify data and put it on the blockchain.
No, you cannot in this instance. In this instance, you wouldn't be able to have done that.
Why wouldn't you be able to do that?
Because if your business process is correct, all of this information that's being submitted to it would have been transparent. Everybody would have seen it.
Yeah, but they could see it. But like, say you're the farmer, right?
Okay.
You you log something on the blockchain. Okay, goods are
You
being
just
delivered.
answered the question. You just answered your question.
How?
A farmer. The goal will not be having a farmer be in this place. The goal will be automating the farmer entering that code itself.
Yep.
So the farmer will have no way to have that. So basically, that mutable factor is gone. Your farmer will have no access to enter that code. The farmer will. This basically the goal is to automate the whole system of entering data into the database, into the blockchain system.
But could you not also automate a non-blockchain solution?
You could,
You could.
but it would take a lot more time to implement.
Because the benefit I see is that the infrastructure would be there. So, like for example, the Ethereum blockchain already exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Ethereum blockchain is also vulnerable as well to an attack. So
Yeah.
what we're saying is that blockchain, just generally speaking, if the infrastructure is set up correctly, the smart contract aspect of it, the automated response aspect of it, would actually have nullified any human interaction in the first place.
So the whole process itself of entering the data itself will be automated. So you're not relying on human error or human manipulation. You just basically a bag of salad is coming into a truck. It's automatically basically taken and scanned without again a farmer interacting with it, and that is automatically placed in the blockchain. So
And you're
basically,
saying the FDA, for example, would have a node
where the
on that
FDA
blockchain.
the FDA will have those information. Basically, that information. For instance, if you put in a produce into a truck,
Mhm.
maybe again I'll design it where each time you go, each time a produce is basically going into the truck, the scanner is located on top of the truck, and it's scanning the QER quickly. So you're not having a farmer basically scanning it or even inputting the code into a blockchain. It's automated itself. It's basically scanned and placed automatically into a blockchain itself. So you eliminated human process in there. And with that, you now have, again, the goal is to have that process of imputing data automated and basically
Well, but
reliable.
my point is just that I mean you could do that without a blockchain. But I guess if the FDA had their own node on that blockchain, so they had a copy of all the information,
Yes, yeah,
that would
they
make
will
sense.
have, yeah. So the goal is to have, this again, is going to be shareable. So to have it where they will have a private key to access that blockchain itself.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you get it
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Plus the network can be expanded out in a traditional fashion. You wouldn't have been able to have that sort of scalability.
Yeah. So yeah, I did those questions. I pondered a lot of those questions, and I decided to ask people and try to figure out how to answer that question. And it just came up, and yeah. But that's the process. The goal is to not only the process of entering the data should be automated, but the goal is to eliminate any questionability of entering that data or where that data is coming from.
I mean, so it sounds like there's two separate elements to this. There's the automation, and then
Yeah,
there's the blockchain.
yeah. That's what I look into designing. That's what I was designing. Yes, there is.
Yep.
That's what, and that's what I was doing in the cannabis phase. Again, with the laboratories
Yeah. The thing about
where all those stuff is automated in the laboratory side of entering the data from the laboratory results automating that aspect, because people can go in and forge the numbers, but automating how that whole aspect is basically given and put in the blockchain itself.
Mhm.
And that you can have reliability and trust in that system.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the thing that you would never implement a blockchain infrastructure without having some form of automated processes in it, because that goes part and parcel to it. You because if you didn't have it, you would have just a blockchain analyst or some kind of business analyst handling a lot of that, and that you're trying to reduce the amount of human input um, being involved in the whole entire process.
So, Jay, you good?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually a good question. It's actually a good question
Yeah.
because I'm looking at this from the, the auditing and risk and compliance standpoint, and just saying that, these technology controls inside the blockchain are going to have, be implemented by somebody. Um, and it could potentially be, the same person who did the auditing. Well, actually, in auditing, you wouldn't have that problem. You would have a separate person for auditing because of the gap. You have to have a personnel gap in there. So let me go to the last piece and then we'll close out. This is a relatively new certification that came out this year um, that focuses on privacy. Okay, data privacy solutions engineer. 65% of the world population covered under modern privacy regulations by 2023, up from 10%. We were just talking about this. Different countries around the world, different continents and different regions. Um, they still have not figured all this stuff out. 65%. So you're talking 2/3 of your developed world have this, but the other 1/3 does not have this. Okay, 80 countries around the world have enacted some type of privacy law. This is true. 80 countries, but there's still what 190 countries. So only half of the countries actually implemented any sort of systems of governance in place. 43% missed detection of personal information uh, is uh, is a common privacy failure. Yeah, that that goes without saying. One bad control implementation or vulnerability would leave you exposed. So the CDPSE certification validates your expertise and experience in the 3 work-related domains listed below that are applicable across industry verticals: privacy governance, privacy architecture, data lifecycle. Okay, data lifecycle is important because all that data that flows through the blockchain is going to be necessary to look through. When do we destroy this data? When is it? How long should we store it for, and when should it be destroyed? Who's responsible for it? How visible is it? Where's the transparency aspect of it? That's a part of that life cycle. The architecture is going to be, where did you start securing um, the environment? Okay, your architecture is going to play a role in that, but the governance aspect is really going to be key because according to this up here, 80 countries around the world have enacted some type of privacy law. So almost half the countries around the world do not have this. Okay, do not have governance in place. They just do things. They do what works, and that's how it is. Okay. This is a new certification. And this is something that you usually get at the senior level. So have 5 years of work experience performing the work described within the exam content outline. Experience must be earned in a minimum of 2 um, content online domains here. Let's see. All right, I have to log in and do it, so I'm not going to do that. Experience waivers, holding one of the following certifications: CISA, CSIM, CJIT, and CRISP or CSXP. FIP reduces the work experience requirements to 3 years. So if you get the previous certification that we talked about earlier, then instead of waiting 5 years or having 5 years of work experience, is reduced down to 3. This is actually a good strategy that ISACA is doing to increase the adoption rate.
Mike, one last question.
Yep.
We talk of the blockchain and all that, but also what's important also is what the blockchain is basically protecting the data. So we talked of protection, how blockchain is utilized in protecting data, but we also need to talk about how the data is used, which we do talk about in AI and all that, machine learning. So again, blockchain and everything is, and IoT and everything are interconnected. We talk of protecting the data, but you also have to know, okay, you have that data. What are you using the data for? Why is that data important to be protected? So again, quality control, different aspects. Why is it important to basically utilize the data to know, again, pinpoint when there's a problem with contamination and all that. So again, the aspect of protecting data with blockchain is important because we need that immutable factor, that factor where it cannot change, cannot be tampered with. But again, we also need to know what is with itself. What are the important reasons that data is being protected? What are you using data for? So again, when you're looking at blockchain, look at those both aspects, not just one aspect itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Immutable infrastructure. As long as, you know, if your environment is immutable, then what engineering cannabis to say is only going to further enhance it. So the data that's on there, although that needs to be protected, an immutable infrastructure from the ground up is going to be the way you protect that data as well. All right. Thank you to Jay and Engineering Cannabis for coming up here and contributing, and peace and shalom to everyone.